Welcome to the December 10th Board of Selectmen's meeting. First order of business is approve the minutes from the November 12th meeting.
Motion to accept the minutes?
Second.
All those in favor? Carried. Second item of business is we'll open up a public hearing on a special amusement application from Ala Mexicana for some table music. So you want to speak to that?
Jose Manuel Chavez, just apply for this guy mariachi. Pretty much, that's my only one. So they used to the same guy.
So that's, it's only for 2 nights a week.
2 nights a week, yeah. There can be Wednesdays and Saturdays, so I maybe can change so Sunday to Wednesday, when it depends.
I'll open it up then to any comments from the public in regards to the application for the special amusement license. Wayne?
Wayne Jones, the fire inspector. I've talked with Jose. Of course, we were in for his liquor license inspection, and the condition that we would ask, that is, long as it's somebody that's moving around and not in a fixed position, sitting in a booth would be fine, but like setting up instruments, we would want to do a re-inspection at that point. We understand that's not the plan, but would ask that that be a condition. Thank you.
Would that be because they would have like one area that would be blocking something?
Right, yeah, and just want to make sure that we're not overloading any electrical circuits, we're not blocking any exits, things of that sort.
Okay.
Any other comments from the public in regards to questions or issues with that?
Mr. Chair, one thing that Wayne and I have talked about is we're going to relook at the ordinance that we have for special amusement and the application, because right now there's nowhere for public safety to sign off on something like this.
Okay. If there's no other comments, I'll close the public hearing and open up to the board to take a motion on the
I make a motion.
application,
I make a motion to approve the application.
Second.
subject to the addition of the conditions that Wayne wanted.
Yeah.
I thought that's what you said.
You just can't
I'm
stop
gonna have him
moving.
start writing and sending me the motions and then we can do that.
Motion is amended. Second.
Yes.
All those in favor? None? Motion is carried.
Okay.
Good luck. Good job.
That was a hard one, wasn't it?
Bye.
Next item is consideration of liquor license renewal for Cafe Sebago. Wayne?
Wayne's busy tonight.
Did an inspection today. Was asked to do an inspection today. Most of the items, as you can see, from looking at the fire inspection report, were satisfactory. There was 2 items that weren't completed as of today, and Bill assured me that by next Tuesday, when we do a follow-up inspection, those items would be completed. So we would ask that you consider approval based on satisfactorily completing those items at the follow-up inspection.
Questions?
When does the license expire?
January, I believe.
Okay, so
Oh,
there's
so you're ahead of the game.
Yes.
Okay. That's fine. You're going to send in a written.
Yes, yes, I'll follow it up with a.
And And I won't release his application to him until,
You're gonna ask us to sign that tonight?
yes, if you would, please.
Okay, that's fine. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion is carried. Next item on the agenda is the presentation of the public safety compensation study. And Carrie, you're leading that off, or who's leading it?
Yes, we have Carrie Mayer from KMA HR Consulting at Falmouth here, and she'll be doing the overview and presentation. Her consulting firm did the study, and of course we have various staff members in attendance who can answer questions if necessary. They're involved in the process, but we have Carrie, and I think there are some other folks from KMA here as well. Carrie?
Yes. Debbie Oldfield and,
In the back.
Greg in the back. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's not showing
It's showing behind you.
just on one screen.
Kevin, we don't have it on both.
Need to get Kevin in here to do his magic to get it on both boards.
Be a little hard if you, oh, there you go.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank
now,
you.
Now I can see it. Thank you. So this presentation is to review the compensation and benefit survey that we did for the town of Raymond's Fire and Rescue Department. We are going to review the scope of work, the project purpose, the market competitiveness, the labor market, the salary data and benefit data that we collected, as well as some recommendations. So we conducted the market study for 2019, which is an update of a report that had been commissioned back in 2016. We created and administered a custom survey to 10 towns that we selected within Raymond's labor market. And then we analyzed the survey and benefit results to create this final report and presentation for the town of Raymond. So why was this work done? This work was done to understand how the market has changed since 2016. How can Raymond be competitive was a big question that they presented to me. And then this was based on the fact that there's a shortage of qualified fire and rescue personnel. So in terms of the market competitiveness, we considered both the external competitiveness and the external equity throughout the process. So the external competitiveness compares how an employer's pay relates to its competitors, and the external equity is the employee's viewpoint. So an employee does not limit their wage comparison to just a few particular towns, but to any town in which they're willing to travel. Wherever they can work is what they would consider their labor market. Which brings me to the next slide, is what is Raymond's labor market? So Raymond is part of the greater Portland area. And what we were doing was we looked for towns within a commutable distance to Raymond. And then we also wanted to find towns that had a full-time fire and rescue staff as well as combined fire and rescue departments. So those were important considerations.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
So, let me go back to the last slide. So we were looking for towns that were commutable to Raymond.
Right.
Within, I'd say, probably 40 minutes to an hour maximum, but also towns that had combined fire and rescue departments and full-time staff within those departments.
So they had to meet both criteria?
Yes, all three criteria were important to consider. So in terms of the survey data, we looked at 13 different positions within the fire and rescue department. Of those positions, 31% were well positioned against the external market. So that means that the average pay was within the midpoint, 95 to 105% outside of the midpoint. And then 69% of the jobs were positioned low compared to the external market. Overall, when looking at those below the market, Raymond's paid fairly competitively, excluding the non-leadership roles, which were mostly the ones that were paid within a notable distance below the midpoint. The largest deficit was around 25% for one of the positions. In terms of the annual salary increase, we surveyed the list of towns to figure out how they administered salary increases, and most of them had predetermined increases, which were through negotiations, budgets, or COLAs, typically at 2 to 3%. This differed slightly from how Raymond has their annual process of offering the merit system with a range of 0 to 5% with an average of around 2%. Also, most respondents had a step-based plan, which would be based on anniversary or tenure of the employee. So we were also asked to look at per diem and call members and how they were paid. And typically, the per diem and call members were paid at similar or the same rate as the full-time staff based on the town's internal pay scale. And that was for both. And for call members, they were paid at a minimum of 1 hour if they were brought out on a call. In terms of benefits, the waiting period varied by the type of benefit, but was generally 30 to 60 days on average. Most respondents offer some type of medical or dependent care reimbursement account, and vacation, pretty typical ranges, starting with around 2 weeks with a maximum of around 4 weeks based on tenure. And vacation was allowed to be carried over to the following year up to certain limits identified in the collective bargaining agreements or through negotiations.
Can I ask you something on that? Is this
Sure.
for full-time employees, part-time employees, both?
Full-time employees.
Okay.
And then sick time is something that all of the respondents offered, which can accrue and be carried over to the following year. A percentage of the sick time can be paid out upon separation, but typically after a minimum of 5 years of service.
Can you start again on that one, please?
Yes. Sick time was a benefit offered by most of the respondents, and that can accrue and be carried over to the next year if it's not fully used.
And it can accrue forever?
It accrues on an annual basis.
I understand the accrual process. I'm asking you what the high limit is on that.
There were limits. I would have to go back to the report to see what the maximum allowed. It did vary by town. Sometimes it was two times the limit. I've seen up to like 960 hours total.
Okay.
So the range was pretty wide.
Okay, thank you.
For health and dental insurance, all respondents offered health insurance to their full-time staff, with the most common insurance vendor being Maine Municipal Employees Health Trust, with an average cost of about 10% of the premium to the employee. Dental insurance, again, was offered by all of the respondents, but this one had varying contribution levels. There wasn't any particular average here. It was much more customized by each town. Employee contribution ranged from 0 to 100%. And again, Maine Municipal Employee Health Trust was the most typical vendor. In terms of disability and life insurance, 5 of the municipalities reported offering a short-term disability plan to full-time employees. And again, the most common vendor was Maine Municipal Employee Health Trust. Long-term disability was called out as a benefit offering by 2 municipalities to full-time employees. And finally, life insurance was offered by all respondents, with the most common vendor being Maine Municipal Employee Health Trust again. The life insurance piece is often bundled in with the health insurance piece. So retirement. All of the respondents offered a retirement plan to their full-time employees. Typically, Maine PERS and ICMA were the most common vendors. The most common plans were Maine PERS 3C, and then there was one participant offering 1C. The average match for these programs varied, but was around 6%, beginning at the time of the benefit eligibility. Some employees are eligible to participate from the date of hire, while others have to go through 6 months of employment or a probationary period before they are eligible to participate. Finally, we looked at additional benefits that were offered by the towns to see if they had any unique benefit offering that made them stand out. Some of these responses included having per diem firefighters who qualified under the ACA. They were offered medical insurance or a buyout. One town provided volunteer accident insurance. Another town provided dental, vision, and income protection to part-time staff at the employee expense. They just offered them on their plans. Some towns offered paid training and tuition reimbursement. And finally, employee-only contributions to an ICMA 457 plan, so an additional retirement offering. And another concern was the training. How do other towns offer training and compensate for training time spent for the firefighting staff? And most respondents offered paid trainings either at the employee's typical hourly rate or at the base rate that they start paying, which is at $12 to $13 per hour. Mileage reimbursement was not a common offering. And most respondents paid for the cost of the class if it is approved beforehand, or they grant a certain number of paid training hours per year. And then call members may be compensated for one call per training based on the requirements. Finally, my recommendations. After reviewing all of the data and considering the concerns that the town of Raymond had brought to us at the beginning of this project, I would recommend that you review the positions that are paid below the market rate. So there was the group below the 95th percentile. Some of those responses are going to be close to the 95th percentile, so they may not need an adjustment, but there are others that will probably need to be reviewed and determined if you can increase and bring them closer to the market rate. Annual salary increases, it seems to be most of the other towns had a predetermined amount based on negotiations or a collective bargaining agreement. Maybe it's something that Raymond should consider, adding a COLA or negotiating the amounts up front. I know the merit system is relatively new, but it's different than what the other towns are doing around you. An alternative to moving to COLA would be to implement an annual performance bonus. These are typically paid out at the end of the year. You know, it's another way to retain and hire new staff when you're having difficulty filling positions. I would say overall, Raymond offers a competitive benefits package for full-time employees, but there are two areas that I think would be worthwhile to do some more research. So offering short-term disability, which was something that most of the other respondents offered, that would be a great way to really stand out and offer a very competitive benefits plan. Retirement match also is a little bit on the lower side based on the sliding scale that you have in tenure. So looking to increase that a little bit more at the more entry-level years, so years like 1 through 4, increasing that match would get you closer to where the market is right now. And then trainings, to be competitive, should be compensated similarly to the other towns, which was paying at a base rate. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Question? No. Couple things. In that, did you compare turnover rate to benefit packages and come to any correlation there?
I reviewed the data, and I decided not to include any of that in the presentation, just based on the nature of exit interviews and how people report their data. It's often an incomplete view of the reasons why they left.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, nothing, you know, I mean, so obviously when you look at this, you get some people at the high end, some people at the low end. Did the turnover rate correlate at all to that, or was it still just what it is?
Between the other towns?
Yeah.
I did not collect turnover data for the other towns.
Okay.
That'd actually be interesting because I know every town is struggling to get people in, so
Right.
it's.
Because I mean, you know,
Yeah.
one, there's two variables that always come into play. The one is recruitment. The other is retention. It costs you much less to retain someone than to recruit.
Absolutely.
So if all of a sudden, what you're seeing is, okay, because this town is offering this, their retention rate is at 90%, whereas one that offers this, their retention rate is only 60%. Well, that's something. If all you're doing is you're only looking at, they're moving because this guy's paying an extra $1 an hour, but then the next year, somebody else is paying an extra $1 an hour, and they're moving there. You haven't done anything. All you've done is you're just kicking a can down the road. Well, where we really have interest is, we get someone here, we like to keep them. And so where's the point at which now your package affects retention?
Right, that is a very interesting question. Something that would be good to look into. Absolutely.
So, can I ask a question?
Yes, you can.
Because she doesn't have an answer to yours. I knew it would be. I guess just some clarifications. What is the difference between, and I don't know if you know this answer, per diem and call?
Yes.
Because I'm
Defer to the expert.
I was looking up, I didn't know you. Sorry. Per diem is a person that we would hire to fill a set shift, and a call person would be someone who would be toned out by the pager and come out when there is an emergency if they're available. So they're kind of the variable. The call person really equates to the volunteer of the past, but they can sign up and take a dedicated shift for the $2.50 an hour standby pay.
But the per diem is the one that you actually have signed up?
They're at the station working a shift, yeah.
Okay.
In some instances, can employees satisfy both of those roles at various times in our department?
Quite often they do in all departments, and quite often from our department to other departments. We have several that work in Wyndham, Standish, and Falmouth, and here.
Scarborough.
But are also, yes, in Scarborough, and but they're also call members here.
So full-time is how many hours and above?
Full-time is an average of 42 a week on the
42 a
paramedic
week?
side. Yeah, average, because they work an 8-day cycle, 8-week, 8-day cycle.
Okay, and regular part-time, what is that?
Okay, so that would be our vacant medic shift that we have. It's one shift every 8 days, and that's a dedicated shift for one of the
So you technically only have one position open for a regular part-time, is what you're
We
saying?
have one vacancy for regular.
No, I'm actually just, what is it, so many hours, is it the same
Yes.
hours? I guess I'm just trying to break
okay.
down what all your different terms are.
It is actually
It's-
one, I know, there's so many things, there's so much minutia here to wrap your head around. So that part-time position is a split of a full-time paramedic shift. So it is one 24-hour shift of the 48-hour shift.
But is it the same all the time when it says
It's
regular
the s-
part-time?
Yes.
Okay, only because I guess I'm looking at a lot of the benefits, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of the benefits are for full-time people.
Right.
And how many full-time people are on the fire department and public safety?
Six, yes, I don't want to miss it, but there's 6 full-time, yeah.
Okay,
And
so,
2 part-time.
so then, but there's no room to hire any more full-timers?
Currently, no, not in the budget,
Okay,
yes.
all right. I'll come up with more in a minute, sorry.
Well, let me throw one out now.
Okay.
I thought the premise of this salary survey was to develop a plan where we could retain those part-time and on-call,
That are
not
here,
full-time.
yeah.
I think I'm missing something here, because or am I not missing something?
It's,
Well, I'm
I
not
can
concerned
answer
about
that.
full-time in
It's
this
just after.
sentence.
Sure.
Yeah, it was really for both, because we're losing full-time people to other departments that had higher pay. And since the whole thing, I guess I'd make this statement, since we started this whole thing, we had obviously made the adjustments in the budget, we had adjustments in the contract, and that did bring those levels up to, for some of our full-time staff, close to where other towns are. If
But I was
not
under
over
the impression
some,
that we weren't losing full-time as fast as we were losing part-time.
It's across the board, basically. So last year, we lost two people, full-time.
And how many part-time?
And, oh my gosh, if I had to add all those up, well, we lost
So
Eric
it's more
Schiff,
than
which is
two
a
then,
permanent part-time, and then we had some
See what
call members.
permanent
go.
part-time,
Yeah.
see, you're trying
Yeah.
to, terminology here.
Yeah. So yeah, without doing the rough math, would say there were several. I can give you the exact numbers, but we did have several leave us.
But the contract you're saying too, but that's the union,
That was the union.
so that's negotiated differently. Okay.
Not to pick on you, but how many other fire departments have you looked at in this kind of analysis?
I looked at the towns that we surveyed here, and I've also been looking up some
Okay,
other.
let me rephrase the question. How many
Sure.
towns have you, how many fire departments have you been contracted to do a survey similar to this? Or is this your first one?
We haven't at this point done other fire
Okay,
departments in the
thank you.
state.
Yeah, thank you.
We've done a lot of compensation work.
Back to the question posed to Bruce, do you want to take your cut on that, or you want me to, why no plan? And so, why no plan, in talking to, Carrie, is that, it's sort of a step-by-step process. And so, we have this study, we have this data, this information, and so it can be a very quick, step to getting those tables and a pay plan. But to presage what you might think is integral to that pay plan, important or unimportant, would be, wasted effort, I think, on our part. So once we get some feedback from the Board of Selectmen, we can go quickly to a revised plan. Does that summarize our discussions?
Yes.
And so I asked that question, and I talked to Rolf about that question. But it's a great question.
It is,
But it's
yeah.
kind of, it's a little difficult to, and I suppose we could have done that, but, or you could have done that, I say, because the we comes in with us doing a lot of the legwork. Once you give us some guidance, working with the Board of Selectmen in putting together the actual plan, I think Rita can do a lot of that work. But I think we need to have the Selectmen's input, and then your analysis and direction, and then we can go from there. Is that about what it's at? Or-
Yeah, and in terms of
What's that?
retaining the part-time staff, based on what I've found, there were not many offerings for benefits for the part-time staff. So that is a way that you can stand out to retain that part-time staff, is coming up with some unique benefit offerings for that group. One of the other benefits that I had called out was offering, it was the per diem firefighters who qualify under ACA offering a medical insurance or a buyout to the medical insurance. Some provide that volunteer accident insurance. So they're offering benefits at the employee expense. So there are ways that you can be competitive to offer some type of benefit to the part-time group in order to help to retain them.
Hold that for a second. Hold that just a second. So I guess my concern on that, when you just said at the employee's cost, so the employee would pay that?
The employee would pay it. It's all within your budget and what you guys can create as a plan. So if you want to offer a medical plan to part-time staff, if they commit to 20 hours a week or however many shifts, if you create a plan and you say we're going to pay X percentage of the premium cost, you can offer whatever you want to be competitive. But
And I guess that's one, thank you very much, because I understand as far as doing this kind of survey, it isn't done. And this is kind of like, it was hard to find somebody to do like the fire, so thank you for this. But I guess my concern is yes, we do want to do a retention plan, but I guess I have concerns on how you would make that work, because if you're offering that for 20 hours a week and say the person doesn't do 20 hours, because I know the problem you guys are having now from what you said before is getting people to fill the shifts, to do the part-time.
Right.
So person works 10 hours one week, person works 20 the next, and then all of a sudden they decide, I'm not gonna work, I want this whole week off. But then you've got that medical plan or whatever that, we're offering to offer it.
Yeah.
What is the remedy to fix that if they're not doing their hours? Because it is a per diem, it is a call. Summertime, you guys say, is the worst because you got the holidays, you got the warm weather. There's so many variables here, there really is. And I know there's no quick fix, no easy answer on it, but how do you get somebody to lock into that? Do they owe back? I don't know. So any kind of information you might have on that?
And I would add, sometimes you are tied into certain benefits.
Can we ask it?
Sorry.
And the reason we do, just so you know, the reason we do that is because these are all, everything here is taped and it's actually playing out over
On
there.
people's
So they
living
can't
rooms.
hear if you're in the back there.
Understand, thank you. So, you are tied, in making changes to, with benefits sometimes to a set number of hours based on a plan that you're set up with. But, one thing that would give you some more flexibility, as Carrie had mentioned, is you could consider some type of bonus. And maybe it's a stay bonus, or, a hiring bonus. So that might be something if there's, I don't know what your budget is like for some of those types of things, but you have a little bit more flexibility with something like that because it's not tied to a set number of hours. So just something to consider.
No,
if you're not already
and
doing
I understand,
something like that.
I understand that, but I guess my thing again is because you've got people that can come and go and pick and choose what they want, and we want to offer it, but then the people have to commit, and that's where I think we find that.
I think what she's saying is that you're not gonna give them anything until
Until
they've
they've
already.
Yeah, like if they
Until they've already
stay
completed.
for the season, for example.
So if I'm gonna give you a $500 bonus, if you work your 8 hours a week every single week, then I'm not gonna give it to you until the last week in December. And
Or
if
through
you
your
don't
busy
do-
season, which is, you've got a lot of summer visitors here, and that really cranks up what your need,
And if you
the
work
needs
it-
are for your department.
Yeah, if you work all your shifts undisturbed in the summer, then, you get your bonus on Labor Day or something. So you don't give it to them, you don't promise it to them. I mean, you promise it to them, but you don't give it to them until after they've completed. So every year stands on its own.
I'm just laughing because all of a sudden I realize we have 4 office staff sitting right here amongst us now. We're talking about people not coming in is what it is. You guys are here today.
Don?
Now, one of the questions I had, and I think there's some important, recommendations, conclusions that came out of this, is that annually we have a debate about our health insurance program. And so I asked you, with lower financial effort, which surely we have comparative to our competitor towns, how are we doing with quality? So I thought you might make a comment on that, because that's something we have every year. So we have a relatively unique, it's not completely unique, there are other towns who have privatized health insurance, but compared to Maine Municipal Employee Health Trust, the lower cost options, where are we? I mean, I know the answer, but I think it's important for the selectmen to hear that one.
Right.
First issue.
In terms of what Raymond offers, paying the percentage, you pay 100% of the premium for the employee, plus you fund part of the HRA. So even though it is a high deductible plan, the total out-of-pocket expense that an employee can expect is very minimal compared to what the package offerings were that Raymond had received from the Maine Municipal Program.
Okay, so I think that's an important conclusion that came out of this, because that is, like I said, something we talk about every year. That's not to say that and we talked about this too, that we couldn't tweak it. I talked to Rolf about that today, couldn't improve upon it. And I think that's the path we're probably on, because of the margin between where we're at and the MMA plan. The next thing I got from it was looking at, we're unique, I think, in most of these towns, competitive towns are Maine PERS. We hear that a lot. We're straight ICMA 457. I don't know if there's, and we're looking at that, aren't we, Ms. Ricker? The Maine PERS, as a part of the union negotiations?
We did have, I got all the information from Maine PERS. It didn't seem like something that we would be interested in implementing right now, because it's more expensive. It's really expensive.
But I'm just saying, and I'm not saying we institute it right now, but I mean, we're trying to figure out what distinguishes us from our competitors. That's another place where we're different. And I'm not sure if we're different in a good way on that one, but we're different. And then most of these towns offer COLA and steps, and we're straight merit. That's a different system. And that is a completely unique system for Maine government. So I don't know, if there's anything we can do there, if that's worth looking at all. But that is another thing that struck me from the report. And the other final thing I guess I'll say is that I was also surprised at the number of positions that were in sync, and some that we had thought might not be, that were in sync with the market and very competitive with the market. I guess it was 30-odd% are competitive, is that right?
Yes.
So that's sort of some takeaways I had. But the big one for me was the health insurance, because we talk about it every year.
Mm-hmm. And it's something you probably should review every year, because
We
there
do.
are so many changes and the costs change.
We shop it every year.
Yes.
But I think you said to me, and this will be for the selectmen, I guess, that compared to what we spend to what we get, it's a very good deal for the town. Is that correct?
Yes, it seems like it. Absolutely.
And compared to the alternatives, a good deal for our employees.
No, that's pretty good.
When you're looking at the amount that you fund into the HRA specifically, and then the amount between that and the deductible for the employee, it's very affordable for the employee.
All right, thank you, I'm set.
Yeah, I guess the only, I mean, it's just a kind of a curiosity, but, you know, looking on the full report you said, I'm just curious as to why, for what would normally be considered a professional position, you've got an hourly rate instead of an annual rate.
Are you talking about in the table in the report?
Yeah.
I put all of the positions as an hourly rate to be able to compare them side by side. So even if it is paid in a salary method, not at an hourly rate, we still like to look at the hourly rate just so you can kind of see apples to apples how everybody kind of stacks up.
I mean, for a professional position, I mean, you know, and I consider the chief and assistant chief professional positions, not hourly type positions. So I mean, you know, if you're comparing, I mean, you're not going to go there and say, well, we're going to pay you $30 an hour. No, you know, here's what your rate is. So, you know, you may be able to back into that, but the fact is, then that presupposes a 40-hour week, which we know is not real.
Right.
So I mean, it was just, you know, I was just curious. I mean, you know, obviously you can make numbers, do whatever you want, you know, to be able to compare. But it just seemed a little strange to look at that because you know, it's different between an hourly position and a management position.
Absolutely. The towns did report the data differently. Some reported a salary number, some reported an hourly number. So I had to put them all in the same format for the report.
Thank you. Questions?
There's a lot there I don't have, so I'm
Oh,
going to pass.
okay.
I'm gonna pass.
So the next step,
Well, the next step would be, we could come back with a set of recommendations based upon this information, this report, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, and we could utilize town staff to help with the cost of that operation, which we haven't discussed yet, but we could do that, and I'm confident that we can do that very cost effectively and efficiently, and utilizing Rita primarily, some for Kathy, I'm sure, to build those tables and come back with a recommendation.
I mean, how difficult would it be to get some data in regards to turnover and things like that? Because, you know, if we start down the path and we say, gee, we think this is where we want to zero in on, we want to improve this, but the data doesn't back it up, that's not a deciding factor for someone. All we've done is spun our wheels. I mean, I just assume if we're going to look at something and say, well, let's improve this section, or or whatever there, is that getting us the biggest return, or are we getting better return to look at a different portion of it?
Right. So turnover data is a very hard metric to get a clear view on.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's often created from exit interviews. The employee says, well, it was work-life balance, but maybe it was work-life balance plus compensation plus benefits. They may not state all those reasons. And they don't necessarily define what about the benefits or what about the compensation they weren't happy with. A lot of the times it's something that is not measurable, whether it's relationship with leadership, maybe work-life balance, maybe the commute. So there's a lot of different things that go into turnover data that just make it really hard to use as like a concrete way to say, well, this is what we can do to improve. It's a good anecdotal reference point.
But to the degree we could get that data, assuming we could get some data, some guidance, I think what he's saying is we get that guidance and then select the metrics and build those into the program that are likely to have the best outcome. Is that what you're saying, Ralph?
Yeah.
Can we do that?
I don't know. I don't know if that would even matter, because I think everybody has a different reason for doing things, different reasons for leavings, and it could be work, it could be jobs closer, it could be I know people over here. I think there's too big of a variable there, to be honest, and I guess I'm looking I mean, we are right there in the 90 percentile as far as, I'm just trying to figure what else, as far as, to me, the money is somewhat, you know, as far as not the full-time positions, but it's the rest, but it's on some of these other programs. And I guess I would ask, do we offer any other short-term disability to any other department in the town?
No.
So to me, it would be something that if we offer something to one department, I would say I wanted it offered to across the board.
Well, you do that under 125 or something like that.
Right.
so.
Wow, this one's
Because then it's a voluntary benefit, and then it's easier to administer.
a tough one.
Okay, so your next step, Dawn, is,
My next step is to take the feedback I get from the Board of Selectmen from this meeting and to work with KMA, Carrie, and come back with a detailed plan that will come up with a new pay and benefit program or amendments to the pay and benefit program that will accomplish the Selectmen's goal.
Can I suggest something?
Yes,
Some
Please.
of us just got the report
Yeah.
through wrong emails or whatever and everything like that. I guess I want to look at this some
Yeah,
more.
sure.
There is a lot of information.
yeah, I would
and
say that
guess I
get the
wanna
feedback
see-
to me in writing, or call me, whatever you like, and I can get it on to Carrie, and then we can go from there. But that, to me, that's the next step. Any staff members want to chime in?
To me, to address the original premise, which was retention of part-time people, address that issue.
Okay.
because I mean, I don't, you know, I don't want to let it languish. I want to.
No.
No.
We're at the point now, you know, we've got this, which, you know, which gives which gives some meat here. So now let's move forward and come up with a plan.
Well, if you look at this, and you're thinking you're trying to retain people, I know Kathy had said it at a previous meeting before that, you know, sometimes they go to the next town over for a couple bucks more or whatever it is. So we get the money to where it attracts people. It's kind of in my head is, okay, a check, you know, get it to where it is. And then we say, okay, what can we add on top of that to add another check? You know what I mean? To say, okay, that's another benefit is what it is. So that's, I guess, what I want to sit and try to put together and come up with like a suggestion in my own head. And I agree with you. I think we should be doing something, you know, moving on this. But literally like taking the boxes now and checking it and going, okay, we're here close to the money. And I know I said in another meeting before that I want to be up, not just at the base rate, but up above that. But and then we add, say, okay, let's take a look at the short-term disabilities. Let's look at some other stuff to add onto it. But I think having to babysit the employees to make sure they get their hours is a job that I don't think should be under your title either. Does that make sense what I just said?
It does, and it would make things very complex, but the matrices that we can run on that, if we're looking at, let's just say, if it's a bonus at the end of the year for making your hours, per se, or an infusion into a retirement account, and you have to reach X hours, it's pretty easily tracked with the software that we utilize. Our scheduling software tracks that for us. Bangor Payroll also tracks that for us. So that could be generated. It wouldn't be as big of an undertaking as we may think.
But I'm going to throw something back at you.
Yes.
About any other department that's here that shows up and does their 40 hours, they're not getting a bonus. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
That to me
Right.
kind of sticks in my head. It's going, wait a second, I'm working 40 hours here, but everybody else is getting a bonus, and we're begging. It's like giving my kid extra money to get good grades in school is what it is. You know, so that kind of worries me there. The trainings.
Yeah.
What do you guys have now set up for trainings as far as, you know, I did hear a comment back from somebody, an outside function, and they just said that they can go to the next town, get reimbursed for trainings that we couldn't get here. What do you currently do now, or do you have a plan for that?
Yes, so any training that we offer in-house, so we offer a program that's designed for an EMS provider, let's say, to be able to get enough credit hours throughout the 3-year period to relicense. They come on Wednesday nights, they get paid for the 2.5-hour training, and that accrues. Outside trainings, the big ones, so it's your basic EMT, your firefighter certification, things like that. We pay them a stipend at the end, successful completion of it. So they get their certificate, they pass their 300+ hours-ish of Fire 1 and 2, and they get a $1,000 check, which works out to be somewhere around $5 to $8. I think it's closer to the $5 an hour mark, is what it turns out to be.
But do you have some kind of a
And
plan,
that's
once you
what
pay
we
them to
have.
do it, that they have to work so much here?
And there's nothing there for that. That just gets them in the door. And the premise on that was that that's the basic training you need to have. So we will go back to that, I hate to use the comparison over and kill the horse here, but you walk in Walmart and they train you, they pay you while you're being trained to run that cash register. We're training them and so should be paying them to become that EMT or that firefighter or that driver operator of the vehicles and things like that. Currently we don't, but we give that stipend. Does that answer it?
Well, yes and no. Okay,
No,
so
I
say,
think what your question,
Well,
if I'm following where we're,
let me give the scenario of it. You got a firefighter that wants to be a paramedic.
right.
Okay.
So you pay for that.
We don't cover that one. It's one that we currently,
Okay, because
Yeah.
Just the base.
yeah.
that is
basic.
what, a scenario that came up. Okay, yes, you're right. And I think becoming a paramedic is like $9,000, isn't it?
12.
Okay, so it's,
Plus
so that's what I was
travel.
looking at,
Yeah.
is do we have something that, if we're gonna pay for that, I understand the normal training, understand the stuff that's here, you should have it, but once you're in the door and you're doing more to get further,
Yes,
but that's a big jump further.
it is, and it's something we really do need to address on this because it's a benefit to this community if we do help these
We keep-
folks
yeah.
out with it.
But I mean, something like that,
Yeah, it's huge.
there's kind of the two things that are kind of being talked at in two different areas there. One is, okay, you send someone to training, are you gonna pay them for the day that they're training? That's what you're talking about.
Right.
What we're talking, what Teresa's talking about is, okay, you've got someone that wants to take an advanced level training that's going to benefit the town. Are we going to pay for that class?
Right.
And
Currently,
if-
no.
And if we do, and if we took the mode and said, okay, we will pay for that class, then you're gonna say, okay, we'll pay for that class, but you're going to guarantee us X
Yeah.
amount of time.
Right.
Is that something
Compensate
that
for
would
that.
work?
It could, and I say that with caution, because I want to go take that class, you decide you're going to put me through it, and I have to guarantee I'll stay 3 years and give you that time, and I sign a contract, and then a year later I leave. Good luck in court.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't mean to say it in a wise way, but
No, I know what you mean.
you're
No,
going
but
to have to
there's
go
ways
that
to
route.
there's ways to
Should.
structure it one way or the other. You say,
Right.
okay, you pay it
Right.
up front and we'll reimburse
So,
you each
I would
year
say
X
a
amount.
piece, that kind of plan would work better, and because of that component of it, that we could be out that money. So I think that you have to look at a structure, you have to look at some kind of a commitment contract regardless, you need
Yeah.
to do that, because
Yeah.
most people will abide by it.
I
and
mean,
will
because
buy it.
essentially,
But,
that helps you on the retention side.
yes,
You know,
absolutely.
now you've said, okay, I'm gonna be there for 3 years.
Yeah,
That helps you on that. And as I said before, it's a lot less expensive to keep someone than to
Yes, it
bring
is.
somebody in new.
it is.
Because you bring them in new and you've got,
Stuff.
what's your ramp up time?
Yeah, you're looking 3 years before you get somebody efficient, trained, and then proficient in what they do in order to run on their own, basically. That's a big investment, 3 years of time. Brand new through the door with no experience, you know. Now, you get someone at the 3-year mark, and life changes at 7 is the routine. That's kind of one of the stats, is that people's lives change, they pick up other hobbies, if you will, things like that, and then we become less important, if you will, and they focus on whatever it is, making widgets or riding motorcycles or whatever it is. So,
The other area I'd like to have you look at, Bob, you could do this, the 1 hour minimum. I think you need to bump that up.
1 hour minimum.
Yeah,
when they go out on a call,
going on a call. To get out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning for $8 isn't gonna work for me.
Well, and Ryder does 4 hours. You go out on one
4 hours
call,
is good.
you go out on one call, you get
Yeah.
paid for 4 hours, is what it is, you know, and he's on call on the weekends.
Okay,
And
so here's where we're at. You're gonna, look at your things, get some comments to Dawn. Dawn's gonna put together that, and then we'll move on from there. Everybody in agreement with that?
Go.
I texted you.
Thank you.
thank you.
No,
Thank you.
it's a lot, and thank you guys for the report.
Welcome. Thank you.
I think I put it, no, it's not in that folder, because I wasn't.
We can have it back up, back.
It's on the podium.
How did that come in?
I can go get it.
As a PDF or is it?
This came in PDF. Rita sent it to Teresa, but it didn't get to me. Something happened in the email transmission, so she got it, she sent it to me.
I'll go ask Tim.
So I'm not sure what
What I'm
happened.
finding is when you send it to R.com, it doesn't come in as clean as the PDF comes in. So that's why Teresa.
So maybe we can do it well. Okay, next item is, policy discussion. Dawn.
Can we wait for Teresa, or do you want me to roll on?
I don't know.
She should be back in a second.
She's got to have her 2 cents on this.
Yeah.
Where is she going?
She needs a Wi-Fi password for up here, and it was in here and in my old folder, and the old folder bit the dust, and I didn't.
I thought there was no Wi-Fi password.
No, there is, because the students at Jordan Small were getting into our Wi-Fi instead of the school's Wi-Fi, and the school's Wi-Fi has security, so they couldn't go where they shouldn't go.
Aha.
Mm-hmm.
Should I get Wi-Fi? Maybe I got a password at some point.
It could be. Did he have it? Oh, good.
I have RSU 14 guest.
I bet I'm on RSU too.
Oh, you guys are?
Yeah, I bet I'm on the school.
Oh. It wouldn't put me on. Sorry.
I probably knew.
Look at them, it's like 20 letters.
Well, it's not supposed to be easy.
No.
Okay, Dawn.
Okay, so
Sorry.
along with the wage and benefit study, the Board of Selectmen had interest in a number of separate policies, and so most of this is just codification of what we're already doing, I would say. And so what you have is a hiring process policy and the attendant forms, applicable forms that go with that, a performance and salary review policy, an exit interview policy, which we are, that's fully implemented, we're doing that, an interdepartmental cooperation policy, which I think, in talking to Bruce, there needs to be a back feed on that I don't have in that one. I'll let him speak to that. But that's in play and actually implemented currently. Town-owned buildings infrastructure policy, that's new. And so basically they're all in your packet, and I'm open to any questions and comments and, you know, clarifications, corrections, improvements that you might have. But at the staff level, aside from the comment that Bruce has, which I told him he could make this evening, and it's an oversight on my part, but you can go ahead and make that comment, I guess, Bruce, on that, on the cooperation policy. But these are, in my view, mostly codifications of existing policies, with the exception of that building policy, and probably a little bit of the performance and salary review policy, that one. I'd let Rita add anything, but I think some of that might be a little bit new, but most of it's stuff we're now doing.
Absolutely. The piece that in the communications part of that second. Cooperation policy was, we have a notifications process for mechanical issues on vehicles. We don't have a communications process back for acknowledgement and or what needs to be done written out. So I just think that to codify that, we need to have the other side of the process put in writing as well. And that would just say that, hey, this is what happens when you get the notice. It comes back via email, text, and phone, or whatever that process is, and that the completion also goes the same way. And with our equipment, we can also do another piece of it, and I don't want to complicate it, but our software is how we track it. It also has an email component to it. So someone can log in from basically anywhere with a password, and boom, it sends the emails out to those who need to know that, hey, I got this is what it was, it's fixed. So we could work on that. It needs to have that piece added to it.
I agree with that, and because right now we're down mechanic again, so we're a little bit of a disadvantage. But I think, to me, the way to do this maybe, and this is just an idea I have, but maybe we can streamline this. We can make this something that's computerized, you know, electronic.
Absolutely.
And so it can be something we can involve Kevin in designing a system around the policy that would satisfy the need for, you know, notification and the need for a feedback loop on, you know, timing and what's wrong and this sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I think that could be made a little bit more streamlined than
Yes,
perhaps we have in the policy.
absolutely.
You're talking with the whole mechanic and working, am I missing, is that what I'm missing?
No, what he's saying is, there's, in the policy here, it's
Mhm.
okay, if something happens, then, the advisory, the advice will go here, to here, here. But there's no feedback loop that says, okay, I've got it, and here's what's being done about it.
Right.
So it just closes the loop.
I'm just saying, just pick up the telephone and call each other.
Well, yeah,
Whatever
but,
happens, you know what I mean?
I disagree. I think
bear in
Bruce
mind,
is right. You need
policies
documents.
are written
Yeah,
not necessarily for the people that are here at the given time.
Right.
Policies are written because you want consistency of what happens going forward, which says that if that proverbial Mack truck runs over Bruce,
right.
somebody else can come in. and
Nice,
they know what the policies are. They know what needs to be done.
You also need an audit trail for some of this.
Not to throw you under the proverbial.
No, it's not even the bus, it's
But
the
I mean,
truck.
that's the whole purpose behind that, is that someone else coming into the position knows what the game plan is, what the
Right.
rules are, and they can deal with that, and they don't, it's not a question, what am I supposed to do in this case?
No, but I
It's
just
no
think.
different than you have policies and procedures when you're out at a fire.
Yes,
Somebody knows if this happens, this has to be done.
correct.
And that's part of, it's happened
We
through
can be
training, it's
over
happened through the
policy, too.
procedures that you have. So it's just putting in there good practices for going forward.
Yes.
We can be over policy too, which.
So you don't
can't
want to
be
get
a bit
into he
much.
said, she said
Yeah,
either.
no.
I'm
but
not
I
doing
mean,
he said, she said.
No, but there could be between party A and party B.
No, because he's making sure the truck's not coming down the road.
So I would propose, getting together with Bruce and making
Yeah.
sure we get that return feedback loop. But aside from that, I think, the policies are, I think, a fair, written representation
Mhm.
of what we have been doing. Some of these things have come up some time ago. I mean, the hiring process, that's been evolving over a long period of time. This is just putting everything that we do already in one spot. The exit interview, that's been in play for, I don't know how long.
Quite a while, yeah.
Quite a while.
But these are just, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
so, go ahead.
Really, applicant checklist, I get what you're gonna say. Don't say it because I know what you're gonna say. It's for the next person that comes down the road. I'm gonna sit here and shut up, never mind.
I'm going to trust that everything here complies with whatever law it has to comply with and all that good crap. Oops, sorry. All that good
I concur.
information.
I think it's too much and you think it's
Fertilizer.
good crap over here, seriously.
Fertilizer.
These forms, Teresa, that you look at, the position checklist, applicant list, those are mostly just for me.
Well, that's-
So to make sure that I've done everything. They don't really go anywhere or anything happens to them, it's just.
Yeah, we're actually, as you
things that I
may know,
check
this HR thing is relatively new, and so we've had to sort of pick our way through it.
She's awesome, though.
And, yeah, she's doing a great job, and,
Thank you.
I mean, I've looked them over, and we've modeled off other towns, I mean, that have a more evolved.
Yeah, I did a lot of research on
a
other
mu-
towns,
much
how
more,
they do
in
things.
some cases, much more evolved HR function than we do. So we're trying, once again, to have a small town budget, but a larger town approach to these complex issues. And so maybe it's too much, maybe not enough, I don't know. You can certainly go to Portland and do a lot more, right, Kathy? You can do
Yes.
that. Or you can do a lot less, and so it's somewhere between those two extremes, I think.
I just have a question
I won't call
of
you Mom,
probably
so you have too many
semantics.
policies.
We're calling these policies. I'm assuming they're more procedures of
Yeah.
how it will be handled in the department and not a town policy that requires you folks to vote on it and approve it and be in the policy
I think
book.
the procedures.
Those are the procedure manual.
Okay.
That, I'm surprised you didn't catch that.
It also makes amending it easier.
Yeah, it does, it does. I think it's just, I don't,
But-
yeah.
No, I'm happy with it. I think it's
Yeah.
a good job there. So.
Okay, well, that's good, so we'll get back on item 1, we'll get our team together and we'll look for your feedback on item 1. And I was very pleased with KMA and particularly with the arrangement we were able to negotiate with them and,
I know you
as
said this
significantly,
was hard. Yeah.
significantly less than the issue or the report that we had previously, and so I enjoyed working with him, I think Rita did, and
Yes, very
although
much.
Rita had most contact with him.
Yeah.
So we'll get back on it.
All right, Revision Energy. Nick?
Is there a good place to pull out of the game right there?
Do you have a presentation?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, perfect, thanks.
Kevin, he's going to do a presentation on the TVs.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here tonight. Just to get an idea, so I don't go too far over, is there a good amount of time that I should be prepared to spend on this?
Oh, 3 minutes is fine.
Okay, perfect.
I would say what
I was waiting to
discuss
see.
this. Can you do it in 15?
Yeah, I think I can cruise through in 15 minutes.
That would be what you should shoot for, I think.
I mean, essentially, if it helps, essentially, you've already given us the one presentation, so we're looking at
Right.
what's changed from there to here.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
And I think the principal thing that this group is interested in talking to Rolf is the economic argument.
Yeah.
And then also,
Perfect.
we also, I guess we want the full revision, Monty, if you will, but with emphasis on economics.
that sounds good.
No.
Yeah, so
Well,
if I miss anything, feel free to let me know. But yeah, so basically, this presentation it provides a brief update on what has happened actually since we last met with policy in the state, and then it gets into updated designs for each facility that we looked at. And I also-
We're just doing East Raymond.
yeah, so that's great. So if if you want to just go with East Raymond, that's excellent. I did include Central Fire Station because the new policy actually improves the economics for that project, if you're interested.
Did you want to hear that one too?
so why was it just what was the rationale of just doing East Raymond?
Well,
East
we
Raymond's
thought we
down
would do
here,
this
right?
more I thought we talked about doing it more of a phased way and sticking with East Raymond as a small project to demonstrate the viability and the credibility of it. But if you've got something striking, I guess, that's happened with Central, is that what you're telling me?
Well, not necessarily. So it basically makes the economics of Central look just as good as East Raymond. So it kind of gives you the option of doing either or. So you don't necessarily need to move forward, of course, with both projects at the same time. I just wanted to give you the information just so you have it. And that wasn't included in the original PowerPoint that I sent along, but I'd be happy to follow up with another PDF. So I threw that in at the last minute. So to give you an update on what's happened with solar policy in the state since we last met, there was a new bill called LD 1711, which was passed, and it had several aspects of the bill that changed the solar policy in the state. So the first two involved just opening up the net metering program for larger projects to take advantage of economies of scale. So we lifted the 10-meter cap to an unlimited number of meters that you can send your solar credits to in the state. And we also lifted the capacity cap for net metering from 660 kilowatts AC to 5,000 kilowatts AC. So more than a 5x increase to help with economies of scale. Those don't relate to these two rooftop projects, but they do relate to, if you wanted to do, like, say, a different option, which I might mention briefly at the end of the presentation. The big change that does impact, or potentially impact, the Central Fire Station project is a new net metering program, which was designed to allow you to offset the demand charge at that account with your solar energy generation. And so rather than receiving a kilowatt hour credit, which you do under regular net metering today, you would receive a monetary credit for every kilowatt hour of solar that you send back to the grid. And that would have a value of about, in 2020, it would be a value of about 12.75 cents per kilowatt hour. If you were to offset that account, the Central Fire Station account, through traditional net metering, you would be, next year, you'd be looking at a value of about 7 cents per kilowatt hour. So it's a nice increase in the value for that account if you're interested in offsetting that one. So the economics of the East Raymond Fire Station are not significantly impacted by the new policy. Actually, they aren't impacted by the new policy. It's already a great one to do under traditional net metering because you don't pay any demand charges at that facility, and you therefore have already a high value for solar under traditional net metering. And if it would be if you have questions as I go, feel free to let me know. If it'd be helpful to talk about demand charges and stuff like that, I'd be happy to get into it. But to keep on moving along, this is the updated design that we recently put together for the East Raymond Fire Station. So this includes same number of panels, just a higher efficiency panel than when I was last here. So that's, as you can see, it's about 52 kilowatts of solar. We expect it to generate a little over 63,000 kilowatt hours a year, which is roughly 21% of the town's total annual electricity consumption. And it would, I can double check on this, but it would produce more than the East Raymond Fire Station, and it would net meter to another small account that you have in town. Yeah.
I'm sorry, can you say that sentence again, because we're talking about only East Raymond.
Yeah, so that's right. So this project would be located.
That's right.
Yeah,
I was going to
kinda
quiet
running.
listen through it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, so that's a great question. So the project would be located at East Raymond Fire Station. Under net metering rules, you could produce more than you use at East Raymond Fire Station and send your extra generation to another account to offset that with your excess.
Town hall building? Or,
Yeah,
okay, right,
exactly right.
okay.
So
Or
so
Sam's house.
yeah, exactly. So that would be the plan for this project. I'd have to double check on that.
But you're saying that that this project would essentially produce more than it used?
It would produce more than East Raymond Fire Station uses. I could
Okay.
quickly just.
And that is a difference from the last time we talked, isn't it?
It is.
Oh, then maybe I'm wrong. So maybe I misspoke. Yeah, so I have East Raymond Fire Station here, Route 85 Fire, I believe.
Yeah.
Using 25,000 kilowatt hours a year.
Mhm.
So this would generate a little bit more than, or more than twice what that uses.
40,000.
Yeah, exactly. So, maybe I misspoke last time when I said it wouldn't produce more than you used
Maybe it's
there,
just
but-
been too long.
And your estimates over time, I've checked on this, so I think I know the answer, but when you make these estimates, you meet these estimates, they're conservative estimates, in the sense of, I've asked other towns, are they reaching the performance that you outlined? And the answer is yes. So these are equally conservative estimates.
Yeah, absolutely. So we want you to be pleasantly surprised. If you're surprised at all with the generation, we prefer you to see your generation actually be higher than for us to come in with a much higher estimate than the system actually delivers. So in our experience, so what we do when we come up with these estimates is we do a shading analysis. We take the pitch and orientation of the roof, and we take the weather data from 30 years of weather data from the area, and then we actually include our own internal data on how snow impacts production during the winter time. So we assume you aren't going to be shoveling the panels off when they're covered in snow, and we would recommend that you don't. And so we factor some loss of production in there. And over time, we found that our production estimates are usually plus or minus 2%, typically. So
These panels generate heat at all?
they don't generate heat, so they will be. They have the cells are black, and it's black frame. So once they start to, and they're on the south side of the building, so once they start to shed a little bit of snow, they do start to heat up, but they don't have anything that generates heat. Yeah. So. As you can see, the installation cost for this project is a little under $140,000. The panels, as we've discussed, their production is warranted for 25 years. Studies have found that the panels will actually last 40 years or even longer. So there are systems in New England that are 40 years old and producing about 80% of their maximum power output still today. So manufacturers are continuously impressed with the performance of their systems or of their equipment. So this just gives you a brief overview of the economics of the solar project. So I assumed Raymond would purchase the system outright. You could also So this is meant to give you an idea of what it would be at the turnkey purchase. Of course, we could provide more information if you wanted to finance it, if you have an idea of what your rate might be and what type of term you'd be looking at. But this project would deliver about $8,300 in savings in year one. You also could sell the renewable energy credits that are accrued with your solar generation, and that value of your renewable energy credits fluctuates with the market, the REC market. So we try to assume a conservative REC value of I think this one's $8 per REC, which is a REC is per 1,000 kilowatt hours. But it adds a nice little bump to the revenue stream from the solar project. And as you can see, we are projecting this array to have a 15-year payback period, a 25-year IRR of 4.7%, and the 25-year savings of a little over $100,000 each year. Any questions on that?
The last time you hadn't done a full analysis of the building and whatnot.
Yeah.
So your 137 includes any infrastructure issues as far as where you're going to hang and how you're going to hang the inverters and all that?
Yeah, and it also assumes that we would need to do a transformer upgrade, so that the utility would require a transformer upgrade. So it's meant to be basically the turnkey cost. Yep, exactly right. And I did include some.
Have you,
oh, sorry.
No,
Oh, yeah.
The efficiency, I mean, the efficiency on the panels has increased, but price-wise, have they reached their plateau, or are they?
Yeah, they're fairly, so that they haven't changed. If anything, they might have gone up a little bit since we last spoke.
Mm-hmm.
So they've reached a level where they're so low now that they're more impacted by market
Efficiency
forces. Yep, exactly. So for example, there was a big push to install solar this year before the 30% tax credit goes to 26%, and that applied some upward pressure actually on panel pricing towards the end of the year. That could go down next year. We aren't entirely sure, but traditionally panel pricing has been dropping, and now it's kind of steadied out a little bit, but we expect it to kind of go up and down.
In terms of efficiency, this isn't like computers, Moore's law. This is very, very incremental, although there are efficiency gains. It's not as if you would wait. If you wait, what's your experience been, I guess, in waiting, let's say over the last 5 years, how much efficiency gain do we get?
Yeah, great question. So, usually each year it might be a 5% efficiency gain, 5 to 10%, I'd say. So
they're not doubling it in,
Yeah, exactly. So
like
I started
computers.
working for Revision 5 years ago, and the standard efficiency was 255 watts per panel. Now the same size panel is up to about 325 watts or so. So it's not exponential. It's just kind of linear. Yep. So that's great.
Seems to be last time there was we had something in there on maintenance and monitoring and things like that. Is that built into that 137, or that's?
It is, yeah. Sorry, the 137. It's not built into the 137. It would be an annual expense that's built into the savings projections.
When you show this 25-year net savings at 107, that includes panel degrading?
Sorry?
That includes panel degrading?
Yes, it does. So we in our production estimates, we include a 0.5% degradation rate in our
Per year?
Per year, yeah, exactly. So these graphs just give you an idea of what the cash flow looks like through the purchase, and then I think the loan assumed maybe a 5% loan over 10 years, but I could double check on that, and if you're interested in me refining those numbers, I would be more than happy to.
What I'd like to propose to the Board of Selectmen on this is an outright purchase from undesignated fund balance.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
There's going to be no
I
loan.
wouldn't borrow
great.
on it.
Very
Doesn't
nice.
make sense to borrow.
That's
Great.
why we split it, really, was to make it just,
Fit.
it would fit better.
Tell us about undesignated fund balance excess.
Okay, so the excess at the end of 2019 was about 478,000. We used 200 to reduce the tax commitment. We used 78,000 for our LED streetlights. So that leaves us $200,095 left.
So I think this fits
And that's the
nicely.
excess. That means
Yeah.
we still have our, we still have our 15% fund balance.
And I think it fits into the
Policy.
category of, major, non-recurring capital investment, capital improvements. And so, I mean, I think the streetlights are an investment in the future, and this fits in that category. There are some environmental benefits, which Rolf asked me to ask you about as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we come up with a calculation on basically using data from the EPA and a couple other resources. We come up with and ISO New England. We come up with an estimate on what this will save for carbon emissions. So as you can see, we expect this system to save about 67,000 pounds of carbon emissions. That's on an annual basis. And so this slide just gives you an idea of what that's equivalent to as far as how much gasoline burned, how many cars taken off the road, gallons of propane burned, and pounds of coal. And
Your ball.
And so I'd be happy to just skip over the central station if that makes the most sense. But we found the economics to come out to very, very close to the East Raymond Fire Station. This is the central station here. And the savings are very, very close, slightly faster payback period. I'd say that the reason for that is because it's a three-phase service versus a single-phase service at the East Raymond Fire Station. However, the installation at the East Raymond Fire Station is, I'd say, more a simpler installation because there aren't any existing snow guards and stuff like that. So that can always cause some
I
complications.
wouldn't want to be on top of either one, but I think the central station would be much slipperier.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. It also, the exposure on the East Raymond Fire Station is better as well, so.
What's the timing on this?
Well, the timing would be after we had secured budget approval, so I guess if we're going to use undesignated fund balance, it would be a budget item. It would go through, the budgetary process and be part of the annual town meeting warrant.
Yeah.
Unless you want to hold a special, which I'm guessing you don't.
No.
And unless you want to use your contingency, I'm guessing you don't. So it would go through the regular budgetary review process and be on annual town meeting warrant if it's survived that process.
I mean, I guess the question is, okay, assuming, from a go signal to a turn on signal, or to a producing power signal,
Yeah.
or power generation, where are we? Time frame?
Yeah, what time of the year
We've
is
got
the
to get a,
vote?
let's say a July start date.
Okay, so the vote would be
June.
Vote would be June.
Yeah, sign contract by early July. I'd say probably, so second half of the year is our busiest time of the year, especially for these types of projects. But I'd say probably end of Q4 would be our goal, to get you in before the end of the year, if that was your goal as well, so end of 2020.
So if we pass it in June, we'd have it by the end of December of.
Yeah.
How many municipal systems have you built?
3 or 4 months.
Yeah, great question. So this is our list of.
Now, give me a total.
Oh, yeah, oh, man. Well, we have 25 projects on this list, probably a little higher, so it's a little higher than 25. This doesn't capture all of them. There's some small ones here and there.
25 towns?
Yeah, 25 projects for Maine municipalities. Yeah, so some have done different phases. So City of Belfast has done 3 phases. South
15
Portland has done
minutes.
2. Oh, sorry. Thank
Oh,
you.
my God.
Easy, Sam, easy.
He wants to get home to dinner.
Thank you.
Excuse him.
Oh, no problem. I can quickly go through.
I got about 27 questions.
Okay. I'll quickly go through some of the different projects that we've done. So this is what we've proposed is basically a flush-mounted rooftop project. This one's a little larger for the town of St. George at their transfer station. It's also on a metal roof versus asphalt. Another flush-mounted project for the town of Mount Desert. We also do work on flat roofs as well. So this is the largest rooftop project installed in the state of New Hampshire. This is a project for the Kennebec Sanitary Treatment District. So they felt like they financed the project in a way that they felt it met their fiduciary responsibility, which was it was a great project. First capped landfill to be developed for solar in Maine for the city of Belfast. That was their first of 3 projects. This was the second landfill to be capped with, to have solar installed on it in Maine for the city of South Portland. And then a very similar sized array going in for the town of Sebago on their salt
And they purchased theirs outright as well, did
They
they?
did. They actually ended up doing I think a 5-year bond through
Okay, but they didn't
Bangor
go the
Savings.
PPA route.
They did, yeah, exactly right. So they decided to go that route, exactly. So,
And they've been very happy with it. I've talked to Michelle about it.
Oh,
Very-
great.
Very happy with it.
thanks.
Can you go back to the menu of your slide labeled solar for Maine municipalities and it's your list of municipalities, and tell me which ones are the oldest installations?
Yeah, city of South Portland has one on their planning department. That's probably the oldest. I think that's 2012.
Okay.
And then actually, town of Gorham might have one that's that's older than that.
Wyndham.
That might be 2010. Wyndham has an old one. Yeah. Yeah, I think they were 2013 maybe. So Wyndham's one of the older ones. City of Belfast was 2014.
That's okay.
Okay.
That's giving me an idea. Obviously, we're gonna do due diligence. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I would highly encourage that.
Any questions?
No.
Okay, thank you.
So
Thank you
so
so
I guess
much.
we'll get back to you as the
Yeah.
process evolves.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks so much for having me in.
Thank you.
Have a great
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you.
Project sounds good. You gotta let the budget figure out whether they're gonna buy it or loan it.
And, budget goals.
Okay, I'm getting back there, hold on. So it's that time again.
Budget.
So I put the budget goals from last year and discussion of budget schedule and goals. So the consensus, I guess, last year was to keep the goals as the previous year. Is that right, Kathy? So they were maintaining or lowering the tax rate, continuing commitment to improvement and maintenance of the town roads. Undesignated fund balance can be utilized with an existing policy to accomplish priority number 1. All budget areas are on the table for discussion and review. Core services driven budget. That was basically the goals. Not shockingly different than the goals we've had for about 10 years.
Anybody have any new ideas?
Which have worked pretty well, I guess. We've had a very, I'd say, relatively stable tax rate. I mean, we've had some external forces that have acted upon us that have caused that to fluctuate some, but as far as the municipal side of the budget, I think it's been proven over time to be a very responsible budget and pattern of annual budgets.
Kathy, you bored with our budget goals?
I am a little bit.
So I have one.
Okay, good. Let's do it.
I want to keep seeing us move forward, without dipping into, like we are right now, dipping real into pockets, but our percentage is so low for a municipal budget, is what I'm
My
saying.
question was gonna be, how much wiggle room is in that first sentence?
What was the first sentence?
Maintaining or lowering the tax rate, because I want to see things start to come back to Raymond and into Raymond for people instead of bare minimums anymore, I guess.
Well, you've already done that. I mean, we're gonna add a rec department into the
I'd
budget.
like to see something about strategic investments to improve the community in the future, you know?
Newspaper person too.
And that's what we've been doing, more of that. I mean, strategic investments to me are this new rec initiative. The LED lighting, I think, is in that category.
Solar panels.
You know, I mean, we may not agree on solar, but that's in that category. You know, there are different things that
How do you guys feel about the solar?
Well, I mean, I would,
That would be a
I
very
would,
positive thing.
I would say,
In the
you
long
know, I
run,
would
it's
say to
gonna be
put it,
extremely positive.
put it into the budget and let's run it through there and
Okay.
let it go through, you know, let the boards look, you know, the boards look at it because it's gonna, it'll be looked at by, you know, the select board, you know, we'll see that, you know, it's gonna go, it'll end up through the budget finance, looking at that as well. And, you know, that's gonna, you know, that'll generate obviously some questions and things like that, which is perfectly fine. And get some opinions that way. You know, my issue with it was always that it was being presented as, here's a cost saving things. And I never, you know, whenever I hear that that's code for, well, it's not really that. It's like when we were told that recycling will pay for itself. Well, it doesn't. You know, the fact is, do we do it because it's the right thing to do, and it does have some intrinsic value to us to do it? You know, that's why I said don't try and sell it to me just on the fact that it's a cost saving thing. Sell it to me on the fact that it's doing this, it's also doing this, and it's doing this. Based on that, I say, you know, we put it in there and let's see how it shakes out there. You know, ultimately, then, you know, the town's going to have the final say on it, and I think if it gets there and it's presented reasonably, then there's, you know, it stands a reasonable chance there, because I think there is some, you know, first of all, from a dollars and cents standpoint, we're not talking massive dollars and cents. If we do that as a first phase and people start to see it and see where it is, then if we grow it from there, then we grow it from there. If it falls flat on its face, then it falls flat on its face, and we haven't broken the bank on it.
So can I ask something on that? Because he's not here anymore, right? Is he, Nick? No. All right, because I want that.
He's watching.
I know. Well, I want to ask the questions because in my head, I'm still trying to wrap my head around. There's $107,000 savings over the course that we have.
25 years?
25 years, right?
No, it's more than savings. It's positive. I mean, you're gonna make back everything that you spent on it, and then you're gonna start going forward.
Because it's
and the longer you go forward, the more you're gonna make.
Well, I'm thinking it's gonna take 15 years to start seeing the money come back on that, and it technically 25 years is the warranty on these things. But he did say 25 to 40 tonight. I was listening to that, so we no sooner make so much money at 15 years that in another 10, 12 years we've got to replace them again. So we're taking that money that you just saved.
No. What you're replacing after 15 years is the inverter, which is a lower cost item. That's an $8,000 maintenance item.
So that's
it's not the panels on the top.
And then
it was
your
inverter.
panels. You have degradation of panels at a certain percentage. So the fact of the matter
But he
is
also
that-
said that the efficiency of the panels was going up over time too. So.
But that's on new panels.
Right.
And the
So
cost
what
is
you
going-
have for a panel,
cost
what you
is
have
going
for a
down.
panel.
Right,
See,
but
and
as if you get one that breaks, you're gonna put in a more efficient panel.
Yeah.
and this is why I didn't want to ask.
But if it
Christian if I
breaks,
was
it's
here 'cause I
replaced
wasn't
under
sure.
warranty too.
Right.
Because you've
But
got a
it-
25-year warranty on it.
But you've got a 25-year warranty on one, you have a 12-year warranty on the other, and again, you don't start seeing things back until 15 years. So that's why I'm thinking to myself, that's,
I
Well,
think-
you are seeing, you're seeing that the fact that your electric bill's gone down $8,000 a year too. I mean,
Yeah.
you're seeing that every year.
is there electric?
Now I wish I hadn't
Hey,
mentioned
Graham.
solar.
Yes, our electricity bills are.
No, that's why I asked, I didn't know if there were, yeah.
Budget goals?
Yes.
No, because this is,
Solar,
Pardon?
do you mind if I speak on the solar?
Of course I mind. No, go ahead.
I mean, because if this is something in the budget goals, I want to understand it too. Yeah.
Kathy Goslin, 11 Eagles View Drive. We put solar on our new house, about 3.5 years it's been. We put 38 panels up. Cost us about $20,000 when we were done with the rebates and that. We figured we'd make our investment back in 7 years. But my bill to CMP is $10 to $12 a month. That includes our heat,
Somebody throw a truck
all
at
of
her.
our air conditioning, and all of our electricity. So yes, you don't pay back that money for the 7 or 15 years, but you're not paying an electric bill all of that time, and that's where your savings is.
But wait a minute, CMP is kind of funny right now, so we can't really be
But you
reliable.
have a contract with them, you sign a contract with them, and they agree. And with the governor we have now, she's very much for solar energy. So it is a good time to do it. But for us, hoping to retire at some point, knowing we can control our energy cost, I mean, $10, $12 a month is a lot of savings. So we have 38 panels, we've had no issues with them, they're 3.5 years old. I would highly recommend it.
I would love 10 to 12, especially in light of what I just stuck in my front yard down there too, so I mean, it's gonna even be more expensive. You know?
No, we're not
So, and it's
opening
air
down
conditioning
to-
all summer long, which, you know, we don't pay anything for that,
Fun
so.
entertainment.
Budget goals.
But, so, the goal is, okay, the goal, the thing is right now, is
Thanks,
you're gonna include that in the budget, and it's gonna go
Solar
through
panels, yep.
normal reviews.
Yep.
So
You're gonna see the LED savings. We're gonna work on our rec department.
Thank you.
One of the other things that I wanted to touch on, that I was gonna do some calculations for the budget, was to look at one of the things she reported on, which was our ICMA schedule not being as robust as other municipalities, because we don't have mainstay retirement. So I thought I'd look around and see what they had, and maybe look to see how much would it cost to give us 1% more, or to see what we can do in that regard. Yes or no?
I'm not a,
Just to make it more equitable
Well,
with
I think
the surrounding
what
communities.
you're talking about there is, looking overall at the, the fringe package, that's fine. You know, Look at that and see, come back with some recommendations and things like that, and, and look, and that, something can be looked at. I mean, obviously, if you're gonna do that, you do it, you kind of force that on two sides. You say, okay, if we're gonna increase, it's gonna be a match type increase.
Yeah.
If we're gonna increase a percent, you're gonna increase a percent.
Oh my gosh, yes, that goes without saying.
The other thing I want to
Well,
say,
it is until it's not.
Because I
said.
don't know the insurance as well as what he does.
the other thing I'd like to say is I talked to our insurance man today, and I want to have him come in and meet with our various employee groups. And I think that sometimes our employees don't know, and I'm in that group, I consult Ms. Ricker here, but they don't know sometimes the intricacies of the programs that we do offer. So a little primer on how to maximize or utilize what we have. And then I'd also like to talk with that same insurance guy about maybe looking at some of the improvements that we could make, because I think one thing we got out of this report that was very valuable to me, as I said before, is that, we have a good program. We could improve it, though. We could tweak it. We can inform our employees on how to better utilize it, all the above, and I'd like to have that happen. And he agreed. He said he would do that. Right?
He's a gentleman and a scholar.
Okay.
So. you
So
set
is there a
goal.
motion on the budget goals?
I say we go with the old boring ones again.
Well,
Anything else you guys are looking to add?
I think the recreation department.
I mean, you've got,
costs us a little bit more
yeah.
than.
I mean, because we've got those ads that we got, we got the rec that's an ad, we've got the solar that's an ad, so it's.
I like
And then
that
the question is, but I mean, on the solar, if the decision ultimately is made, okay, the recommendation would be to pay that out of surplus. It still is a revenue neutral to the overall, to the final budget. But the fact is, it still wants to be seen what it is. It's got to be in there.
Oh, sure.
The factor of how do you pay for it, that's a second, it's a second part of it. But, at the end of the day, it wants to go through the whole thing and be able to come out and say, at the end of the day, the town's, at town meeting, they're gonna say, we like it or we don't.
I like the terminology of explore strategic investments for cost savings and community improvement, or something along that line, I think the world is about technology, and it's moving forward, and I think if there's one area that we haven't been very aggressive, it's that area, and not only this town, but a lot of towns have been, in that category. So I'm really liking the direction that we're going in with the rec department. I think that's a community improvement thing that's, in my mind, overdue. And so we're trying to put some effort into finding things that can satisfy that notion of improving the quality of life, but also saving money and hopefully a lot of times those things will intersect. Sometimes they won't, but that's what I think we should be doing, investing strategically.
I got a question, and I may be really off. 2021 is the budget we're looking at.
Right.
If we were to withdraw, do we have to do anything as far as money for that?
No. Because that would be in that following year's budget.
Well, I think the question you're asking is, do we need to put more money into consulting fees?
That is the question.
Is that what you're asking?
No, actually, I was thinking, because I know
It's funny
money.
that we haven't used, I mean.
No, what I'm
we had-
asking,
We had authorized 50,000,
Right.
Right.
and what are we at? We're about 13.
no, but I know other
I think we're more like 20, maybe
Okay.
25,
Yeah.
but I'll
And the
look at
fact
it.
is, when you look at that, a lot of that was, the legal side will actually go down, so the other will, so
Mhm.
the more expensive portion will be dropping off fairly soon.
Mhm. No,
So
what
I don't think we need to top off that 50.
Okay,
we
good.
would have the vote and we would go the following year, so it'd be 21, 22, because I know the school is going to need startup costs, and that's what I think the other towns did in the beginning, to have that startup cost for a budget if the town chooses to withdraw. So it'd be 21, 22
That's
then.
21, 22.
Okay,
We're
I'm
doing
off of my
2020, we're doing 2021 right now.
Well, okay, but some of that cost would be incurred in 20. We're
Well,
looking at
but-
2021 now for.
But when's the
next
vote?
budget
Vote's in
cycle
November, I would
Of
think.
20.
Yeah, so,
So in order to be prepared
2020.
for a budget that goes into effect July 1st, there's going to be some upfront costs.
because we would start the following year, well, there would be, so that's why I didn't know what
Yeah.
year,
So
it would
a
be
cycle
in.
from now, there would be costs incurred to school.
Right.
So I think
The-
I think we need to
The
look
21,
at that.
22 budget would pick up.
But some of those would be incurred in early 21, which is the budget cycle we're going to be talking about.
Are you guys gonna divvy up fund balance at the RSU though?
Mhm. Yes.
Okay.
Well,
So we ready to go on to schedule?
no,
No.
no. So do you want to add that, or do you want to do
If
investigate
you don't know
tomorrow?
what, you don't know what it is. I mean, if we come, we'll have to cross that bridge, but the fact is you don't know, you have no idea what the building is at this point.
Can we move on to the schedule and put school on March 17th as a placeholder? And then maybe by then we'll have a better handle on what we might be looking at for upfront costs.
Okay.
Oh,
And then we can always say, no, we're not going
I just didn't want to leave it out and all of a sudden have like, whoa, this cost
to,
come
no,
up
we
as.
can't do it. We're looking at, $10 million on one budget meeting. So
okay, so you wanna add, school
I would
separation?
suggest that we put a placeholder in March 17th for a school discussion.
School
Early
discussion. Yep.
And just, lay out to the budget committee what we're looking at, what the timing is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because Marshall's putting together a budget.
Let them come, no, don't blame me, let them come up with
I didn't.
their questions and all the stuff that they're gonna do. And we'll do it, but, there's
I
no
just
way
said
we're
you-
gonna be able to detailed answers. Okay, but I
Mhm.
think it's just a superficial view, but I think budget needs to know that it's coming. So,
Yep, I changed around the way things, March is a 3-meeting month, cause it's a 5-week month.
Right.
So all of the budget meetings, most of them end up being they're all in March.
I don't care.
I'd rather
what
get
it
them
is.
done.
Yeah.
April, I didn't do the second week for your warrant article, just because you guys would always say, don't schedule school vacation week, so I didn't. And that made it the 21st. And then the week after that would be the Budget Finance Committee.
I won't be around, I know, like March 17th, shoot, sorry.
Let's,
I mean, I can watch it. It's
no,
not-
you need to be here for that recreation discussion.
Oh, yeah.
Well, then move the
Does
then shift the
Move rec up
recreation, shift the TIF and the recreation.
That's fine.
Oh, you mean just move line items
Yeah.
between
Right.
the 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
I mean, we don't have it confirmed yet, but that's the week we're gonna head out for a week.
We can just move it up. I think we don't have to move anything down, because all of the things that I put in March 3rd, in my mind anyway, are pretty
Quick.
straightforward things. That would be the recreation would be the only thing that isn't straightforward.
Yeah.
The reason I wanted the TIF up there was because the TIF and provider agencies, there's a lot of things in the TIF that are provider agencies. So basically what I was trying to do was to get all those people in one meeting. And then, because you guys tend to knock them off pretty quick when you have, but rec, if we put rec last, then I think we'll have ample room for it in that meeting. Even though it looks like it might be top heavy, I don't really think it is top heavy.
County tax,
'cause you're
insurance, boom.
you know, March 17th, you got both Public Works and Public Safety, which are the ones that usually take up the most time.
No, libraries too. Libraries pretty.
You have the libraries,
Yeah.
libraries in the week before.
Yeah, but I mean,
Robertson,
you know,
number one.
that's gonna be in the front. That's gonna.
So I mean,
probably
you got the two, you know, that's why you've got fewer things in the 17th, because you got two, two that.
You have the
show up.
heavyweights.
Yeah, 'cause, well, I mean,
They are.
obviously they are, because they're
The
like,
biggest
they're like 80% of the
Budget.
municipal budget, so. I
Yes.
mean,
And I'm gonna miss them. I'm good with that.
Okay.
You guys good with the schedule?
So if you look at it and you find that there's something else, then
I
just
mean,
let me know.
it's one of those that, you know, when you have your meeting with the Budget Finance Committee, there's always some minor tweaks that come up anyway on scheduling aid, so, and we work with it, so.
We have the notice of those meeting dates.
Yeah, that's in the,
It's in the e-packet.
it's in the e-packet.
And they'll send it to you when it's.
Yeah, they normally will review it and give their consent to it, and then we send it out for feedback from you.
Okay,
So you'll get it,
so I'll get it.
step by step.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything else on the schedule? Okay. Consideration of new tax payment policy.
We've had a few questions come up recently, in particular with personal property, when people will send a check for this year's taxes and think they're paying this year's taxes. They aren't, they're paying if they have outstanding taxes, the oldest first. We've done that in practice, and we wanted to make that a formal policy, and I found that in Maine statute, it does give the selectmen the ability to do that. So I've written up a small policy just to codify what we're doing. So we have something to point back to when people ask us why.
So this is writing an unwritten policy?
Yes,
Okay.
and Don has something for you to sign if you.
I agree on
if you
it.
Yeah, it's in
Yeah.
here.
approve it.
Do you need a motion?
Yes,
Wait,
please.
are you leaving, Bruce?
You know what you mean?
No, I know,
You do?
but, no, I just, before he leaves, I just wanted to thank Bruce for helping out the other day when, you know, with the whole issue on the plowing and whatnot, when we needed some people to step in. Bruce stepped in and helped out in areas that he wouldn't necessarily normally have had to done, so, you know, we appreciate that. That shows, you know,
How many mailboxes did you take out?
I haven't used yet,
And,
but
and,
and made the offer,
and Donald and Scott shuttled trucks after work.
yes.
but that is, you know, it's a testament to the one Raymond way that we do things, and I appreciate
We're
it.
gonna meet and look at the schools.
We actually did so.
Oh, see ya.
So, sorry about that.
That's okay.
All right,
All right,
so,
move the tax plan as, move the new tax policy as written.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried.
We're done.
you took that out of my mouth.
Thank you.
Okay, consideration of a new road name.
Oh, here we go.
Hi, I have asked a resident to name a road because of our addressing ordinance. They have one property that they're splitting into two, and they are requesting Short Sticks Road. And as far as I'm concerned, it's a fine name. It follows all of our ordinance guidelines.
Okay,
Fine.
a motion to accept.
All right, second.
He's
Moved
not
and-
even-
moved and seconded.
First and
All those in favor?
Okay.
Ross
Opposed?
not even
None.
getting in the middle of it.
Okay.
Thanks, Kayla.
Consideration of general assistance administrator appointment.
Yes.
Oh, I'm
ahead.
sorry.
That's right, we agreed you were doing it, go ahead.
Yeah. Jenny has really jumped in with both feet, both hands, is doing a wonderful job. She was very nervous at first because GA can be quite intimidating. But she has really stepped up, and she feels comfortable enough now so that I feel like she should be the general assistant administrator. And if you agree and you appoint her tonight, then tomorrow what we'll be doing is making Dawn her deputy, as well as the on-call person. Because Jenny lives in Bridgeton, if someone needs something immediately right now, that would still be Dawn.
So, motion to appoint Jenny Silverblade as the
Second.
General Assistant Administrator?
Second.
Second? All those in favor?
Yep.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
Moving this baby along.
RSU withdrawal 14.
No,
You
Town
missed-
of Raymond storm
missed
closing
one.
policy.
Wait a minute. Where was it? It's not on my thing. Did I miss it someplace?
No, that's on there. It's right here.
Were you gonna do that one?
Okay, yeah? I haven't done it in.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, didn't print on my thing. That's all right.
It's good as trying to be.
Okay, Don, you want to run with that?
Well, do you want the Reader's Digest version or the?
Yeah.
The Reader's Digest version is.
Bye, Kayla. Thank you.
We brought a storm closing policy to the Board of Selectmen a number of years ago that would codify the then existing procedure. The Board of Selectmen's reaction was more along the line of, that we don't close. And so, and that was in the days of when the governor was talking about such a thing. And as a practical matter, though, I think at times you do have to close. You do have to exercise judgment for, public safety, and it's a rare occasion. But this would basically just codify what we used to do as a matter of course and what other towns do. And, certain of us, because we're here and we come in and it's not as if, even on those extreme blizzard days, this doesn't apply to public safety, of course, it doesn't apply to public works, it doesn't apply to me, it often doesn't apply to other employees who are in town. If there's something we can do, we do it. If there are people who are traveling great distances, this gives me the latitude to be able to say, it's a blizzard, I'm going to let you go home a couple hours early, or it's a blizzard, we're going to close for the day, we're not going to penalize you. It's very rare.
But when did you come to the board? Because I've been on 7 years and we
Oh,
never
yeah,
had
this was prior, well, I don't know, but
It was
I don't want
within
to
the
go
last
too,
5.
how long was it?
It was within the last 5.
Within the
No.
last 5, okay.
It's
Well,
been
anyway,
since I was here.
so the reaction was, storm closing policy, our policy is kind of, no work, no pay, and if people want to take the time off, they should do so to protect their public safety, but that'll be earned leave. And this is a little more liberal, a little more generous, I guess, but it's in keeping with what other towns do, and that's saying that if there's an extreme weather event, we would close and have separate work rules, of course, because it doesn't apply to public safety, doesn't apply to public works, but they have other things that benefit them, other rules, they understand it, there's no objection from them. And if this happened, once a year, that would probably be on average, possibly, and it's usually an early release, if you will, rather than a closure. That's the whole thing, I think. So that, anyway, that's the storm closing policy. Most communities, I think you did a survey, can you tell me about the communities that had this? This is a Sue Look initiative, I'm doing my best to give you may want to add to it. I think you want to speak on behalf of the employees, their perspective?
Well, their perspective is much like mine. This is the same sort of policy that the state uses, that I had at L.O. Bean, that Sue had at Hannaford. It's a very common practice that if I make the decision that I'm uncomfortable, I need to go home, or I'm uncomfortable, I don't want to come to work, then I would use my time for that. That's my decision. If the town decides, once I'm there, we feel it's dangerous, we need you to go home, then most employers do pay for that, and pay your time once you're there.
Well, no, I have to say, because I know I was questioned about it before, and I said, I think they ought to get paid because the choice is being taken out of their hands.
Absolutely.
And if they don't have the time, sick time, people are gonna risk their safety coming in because they need that pay, or they need to not take a day off. I think if we're taking the choice out of their hands, we should be paying
And
it.
if we're talking about storm policy, if there's a storm, everybody else in the world gets paid if the office is closed, and that's the way it should be.
Motion to accept the town of
Second.
Raymond storm closing policy?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried.
Thank you.
Who makes the decision, Don?
Don.
Done.
Well, I always did that, and
Yep.
how this came about was.
No
setting
one
up-
snowflake rule either.
No, it was when we brought it to codify it, when we brought it into a formal policy. Okay, moving on.
Moving on up. Okay, RSU 14 withdrawal committee update.
Yeah, I'm gonna give a little bit of an update.
Committee met last night. We have now done a amended counter proposal that is going back to the RSU for their inputs. We authorized at that meeting if they have any little minor tweaks, because we're down to the point where any changes in there are getting into that minor range. We have authorized Joe and the lawyer to sit down with their people and hammer any minor difficulties out. Marshall has been working on getting budget things pulled together and gave us a presentation last night on the secondary school costs, and he's working on other areas now for presenting at future meetings. We had more people were at the meeting last night than have been at some of the other meetings, but we're still, we still want more people to come to meetings and give their inputs on things. But things are moving along on those lines. So once we hear back from the school and get the separation agreement done, then that's one big area that's resolved there. That's essentially, for lack of better terms, is a divorce degree. Once that's all negotiated, now everything else is okay. What's the beast going to look like? How are we going to, what's it going to cost? And then from there, then you start to have public hearings and whatnot on here's where we are, here's what it's looking like, what are your inputs, but as always, we're looking for inputs as to what people are thinking, what they like, what they don't like, what they would like to see in a new Raymond school.
Well, and Kate and Caitlin, the case, is going to go through the PTO and put out a survey. So for parents who are interested in putting in their 2 cents that way, please fill out the survey and keep an eye out for it. Because we do need people's input.
Okay, public comment? Okay. The selectman comment.
Good.
I had mine with Bruce. Okay, town manager report.
Okay, confirming dates for upcoming regular selectmen meetings, January 14th, 2020, February 11th, 2020.
January 14th, January and February 11th. Yep. Anyone have
Okay.
problems with those dates?
No?
Okay, reminder of upcoming holiday schedule, Tuesday, December 24th, Christmas Eve, the town office will close at noon. Wednesday, the 25th, Christmas Day, closed. Tuesday, December 1st, New Year's Eve, the town office was closed at 4 p.m. Wednesday, January 1st, New Year's Day, closed. So I have some exciting announcements, the first of which is today was the big day for the LED streetlight kickoff.
Oh, cool.
Yay.
And so they were supposed to mobilize yesterday, but I think the torrential rain dissuaded them from mobilizing. So they hit the ground running this morning, and so we're the first of our consortium, which there are various consortiums that have worked together on the LED projects. So I'll call the Sebago Basin group, and that's Gorham, Standish, Wyndham, and Raymond. We're the smallest naturally of that group, but I think we're one of the more motivated ones in the group. And so we got all our paperwork done and in place, and they started in Raymond. I think they'll move from us to possibly Gorham, and then Wyndham. Standish, I'm not sure where they're at. But anyway, so Tim Todd was in town today. He's the son of the founder of the company that's putting the street lights in, R.L. Todd. They're a Caribou, Maine company. They have all of the real-term work in this part of the state and throughout Maine. So they are going to be our servicing entity. They're based out of South Portland, and so they have a southern Maine location. You call them up in the hopefully unlikely event you have a problem. They're supposed to be very, very reliable, but we do have a maintenance contract through Real-Term. So this fellow, Tim Todd, and his company will be taking care of the lights. He told me that he can put up 25 lights per day as a minimum, and he started in the rural areas where there's a greater distance between them. Apparently, when it gets to be really cold weather, you know, he likes the idea of having them closer together. So he can actually make better production on a cold day with them closer together. So he said he does 25 lights per day minimum. Our ace reporter, Kayla, before she left, told me he made 30 lights today. So he says he says even though we have 110 lights, he'll do it in 3 days. So I'm saying it's a 3 to 4 day project. We have 110 Cobra head pole lights to be retrofitted. The old lights will be disposed of as recycled metal, except the luminaires, which actually are universal waste, so those will be properly disposed of, and there'll be certification of the disposal. So it's an exciting project, and it's going. Now, we were trying to debate, we were looking out the town office windows, I had Sue looking out, and the women out front looking out for the momentous illumination of the first LED lights. And at first you looked out and said, geez, they don't look that bright, because...
From the side.
I don't think from the side, because they have diffusers, and they have, you know, they're designed so that the light all goes down. Now, I went out in my car and drove around, and to me, it seems like they're doing what they're designed to do, which is to put a lot of light on the ground, you know, with a very, very efficient fixture that is a, you know, cost savings and high efficiency, and the so-called dark skies movement to try to minimize the diffused light into the sky. So far so good.
Good.
Next one, rec director. We're running an ad for a full-time rec director. I believe we have a few applicants already.
4 came
Four,
in.
okay, 4. And so it's a full-time position. It's a brand-new initiative for the town, and the deadline is Friday, December 27th. And I've been working with Teresa on this, working with Rita, and so it's another very exciting thing. Maybe you
It
want
is.
to say something about it, I don't know, but...
No, I'm excited, especially, you know, we're open to a great program, we really are, and then to get, you know, applicants already putting in, you know, applications, this is exciting, it really is. It's a good thing for Raymond.
That's it?
That's it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Treasurer's warrant.
That one you signed.
Motion to accept $99,138.63 for treasurer's warrant.
Moved.
She moved it, you seconded it.
Second.
All those in favor?
I was waiting for you to move that.
Motion to adjourn.
Yay.
Motion to adjourn.
There's a second?
Second.
All those in
Adjourn.
favor? Meeting's adjourned.